Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we really try to get past the headlines and understand what's truly going on.
Glad to be here.
So today we're diving into something that's really at the heart of the tech competition right now. China's National Cyberspace Administration has raised some pretty serious flags about Nvidia's H20 chip. Concerns about backdoors, security risks. It's got everything.
It really does. And, it's crucial to see this isn't just about one chip or a technical glitch. This is deeply tied into national strategy, geopolitics, trust, or the lack of it, maybe. The whole semiconductor world is on edge.
Absolutely. Many layers, as you say. So let's start with the immediate news. This happened around August 7th, 2025, right?
That's right. The 2TC, China's big internet regulator, actually summoned Nvidia. The specific issue cited was potential backdoor vulnerabilities in this H20 AI chip.
And the H20, just to remind everyone, that's the one NVIDIA specifically made for the Chinese market to get around U.S. export rules.
Exactly. It's compliant with the current controls and NVIDIA's reaction.
Immediate denial, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Flat out. They said very clearly, no kill switches, no spyware, and no backdoors. Period. Their argument is all about defense in depth. Multiple security layers, not some secret key hidden somewhere.
A strong stance. But are analysts buying that it's just about a potential flaw in the H20? Yeah. Or is Beijing sending a bigger message here?
Well, many analysts are definitely reading it as more than just a tech support call. They see it as a strategic warning from Beijing. The H20, even though it's technically defanged compared to, say, the H100, it's become a real focal point, a lightning rod.
Why this chip specifically?
Because it's one of the few really advanced AI chips. Nvidia can still sell legally in China, and apparently it's been selling very well, so targeting it sends a clear signal.
And the market certainly picked up on that signal. We saw Chinese chip stocks, Sumiko, Cambricon. They shot up.
Right. Investors took it as a sign that China's push for its own domestic AI chips is serious and may be getting a boost. Which brings us perfectly to, who exactly is this National Cyberspace Administration, the TAC? What kind of power do they actually have?
Okay, yeah. The CAG-AC. They are China's main internet regulation agency. But that description doesn't quite capture their scope. They have incredibly broad powers.
Like what kind of powers?
Think rulemaking, licensing, handing out punishments. They set and enforce rules for basically everything online. Content, cybersecurity, data security, privacy.
So they're policing content.
Yes, but it's much more than that. They supervise news, investigate websites they deem non-compliant. They even issue directives to media outlets and, get this, require online comments to be pre-reviewed before posting.
Wow. Pre-reviewed comments. That's extensive control.
It really is, and there's a very strong national security angle baked in. Well, the SACI is explicitly tasked with reviewing the security of devices made by foreign countries. Their stated goal includes protecting citizen data, but also, very clearly, national security. This power comes from major laws like the Cybersecurity Law, CSL, the Data Security Law, DSL, and the Personal Information Protection Law, PIPL, all passed relatively recently.
And those laws give the government what kind of access?
Pretty sweeping authority, actually. Access to data, enforcing censorship, and, critically, mandating data localization, meaning certain types of data generated in China have to stay in China.
Okay, very tight grip. And are they extending this into AI as well? Because that seems like the next frontier.
Oh, absolutely. They've already issued draft rules. Tech companies need to ensure AI-generated content aligns with CCP ideology. They even require approval for large language models, the tech behind things like ChatGPT, before they can be released publicly.
Approval based on what?
Based on certification that the AI refuses to answer politically sensitive questions. It's about ensuring ideological control, even in the algorithms.
Right. That makes sense within their framework. Okay, let's switch gears to the chip itself, the Nvidia H20. What exactly is it under the hood?
So, as we said, it was designed for China under U.S. export controls. Part of a trio, actually, with the L20 and L2 chips.
And how does it compare performance-wise to the top-tier stuff like the H100 that can't be sold there?
Okay, so on paper, the H100 blows it away in raw compute power. We're talking TFLEs, right? Trillions of calculations per second. The H20 has 296 TFLOPs. The H100 has almost 2,000.
Huge difference.
Massive. But, and this is where it gets interesting, the H20 actually has more high bandwidth memory, 96 gigabytes, versus the H100's 80. And its memory bandwidth, how fast data moves, is higher too. 4 terabytes per second versus 3.4.
Okay, so less raw muscle, but maybe better memory access. Why does that matter?
Well, it matters a lot for things like large language models. And surprisingly, the H20 is reportedly more than 20% faster than the H100 in LLM reasoning tasks.
Faster, even with lower TFLOPs.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive. It might be related to that memory setup, maybe architectural similarities to Nvidia's newer H200. Plus, using techniques like 8-bit quantization.
Which is like data compression for efficiency.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes the data smaller, easier to process. With that, a single H20 can apparently run a big model like LMA7DB. You'd need 2 H100s to do the same task.
That's actually quite impressive, more efficient in certain ways.
Exactly. And it uses less power, which is good for data centers, and keeps the fast NVLink connection for clustering chips together.
So it might be defanged, but it's clearly still very useful. Is there demand for it?
Oh, huge demand. Reports suggest Nvidia got around 300,000 orders recently, and you see big Chinese tech firms, ByteDance, Alibaba, Tencent, reportedly stockpiling them. Estimates are like 1.3 to 1.6 million units.
Right.
They're hedging their bets against future bans.
Which makes China's sudden backdoor warning even more intriguing. If the chip is useful and they're buying it, why raise these concerns now? What's the real why here?
Right, this is the geopolitical chess game. There seem to be a few factors at play. One big one is likely pushing back against proposed U.S. legislation, the Chip Security Act.
What would that act do?
It aims to mandate tracking mechanisms in advanced chips that are exported. And you've had U.S. lawmakers, like Congressman Bill Foster, openly talking about wanting things like remote disablement features, essentially backdoors, in these chips.
So China's calling them out preemptively, saying, we see what you might be planning.
That's likely a big part of it. It's a signal. And just to be clear, what is a hardware backdoor?
Good question. What are we talking about technically?
It's basically a hidden way in, something built into the hardware itself that bypasses normal security. Could be used to steal data, control the device, shut it down.
And it's different from just a bug or a flaw.
Ideally, yes. An intentional backdoor is designed for unauthorized access. Though, sometimes design flaws or even debug features left unsecured could function like one. It's a murky area.
How would someone even get one in there? Seems difficult.
It is, but it's possible at different stages. During design, malicious code could be slipped into the plans, the RTL code, or maybe hidden in third-party IP blocks they integrate. Then during manufacturing, someone at the factory could potentially alter the chip layout, insert tiny malicious circuits, hardware trojans. Very hard to spot.
Even after it's made.
Yeah, post-production risks too.
Yeah.
Malicious firmware updates or even physical tampering. Remember Edward Snowden's claims about the NSA intercepting hardware shipments to implant things?
Right. Scary stuff. And these kinds of suspicions, they're not exactly new, are they? It feels like this has been going on for years.
Not new at all, and it cuts both ways. There were allegations about Huawei and ZTE phones years ago, but then you also have the history with, say, Microsoft and Intel allegedly cooperating with U.S. intelligence back in the 90s. Intel's management engine is often cited as a known U.S. hardware backdoor. And there's been accusations against Chinese solar inverters, too. It's a long history of mutual suspicion.
Okay, so pushback on U.S. laws, the technical fear. Is there also a message for China's own companies in this warning?
Very likely, yes. Analysts see this as a strong signal from the ET to domestic firms, especially state-owned ones or those in critical sectors. Prioritize homegrown tech by Chinese.
A push for self-sufficiency.
Exactly. It aligns perfectly with their data sovereignty laws, too. Keep data local, use trusted domestic suppliers, reduce reliance on foreign tech, especially from rivals. The government wants control over that data flow.
Which leads us right to the next big question. Can China actually replace chips like the H20? What do their homegrown alternatives look like?
Well, they're certainly trying. It's this whole nation approach to AI leadership. The main domestic player right now is Huawei, with their Zen chips, the 910B and 910C.
And how do they stack up against Nvidia, especially considering the U.S. sanctions against Huawei?
It's a mixed picture. Nvidia, particularly the H20, is still the preferred choice for most Chinese tech firms. The numbers we mentioned earlier show that. But Huawei is making progress. Their Ascend 910C apparently offers maybe 60% of the H100's inference performance, 80% of the H20's bandwidth. It uses older memory tech, HBM2E.
But you mentioned progress.
Yes. Reportedly, the newer 910B and 910C actually have better total processing performance and energy efficiency than the H20. They manage this even under sanctions by shifting production to China's own foundry, SMIC.
So if Huawei's chips are improving, even beating the H20 on some metrics, why aren't more Chinese companies switching?
Ah, the billion-dollar question. Two main reasons, really. First, Nvidia's CUDA software ecosystem.
Hmm.
It's dominant. Developers know it. The tools are mature. Switching is a huge undertaking. It creates vendor lock-in.
The ecosystem trap.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And second, Huawei itself is a competitor in cloud services. So if you're Alibaba or Tencent using your rival's chips, well, it's an unpopular option, let's say.
Makes sense. But these big Chinese tech giants, they are investing heavily in their own domestic hardware too, aren't they? Trying to trade war-proof themselves.
Absolutely. You see huge investments. Baidu has its Kunlun chip and a $1.6 billion AI cloud fund. Alibaba's planning over $50 billion for cloud and AI infrastructure. Tencent is buying GPUs aggressively and building its own models like Hunyuan 3D. They're all hedging.
And it's not just Huawei. Are there other Chinese chip makers emerging?
Yes, definitely. You have names like Cambricon, Biren, More Threads, Inflame, Hygon. Cambricon's revenue apparently surged recently, and they got a big order from ByteDance. It's a dynamic space. Nvidia's own CEO, Jensen Huang, admitted their market share in China dropped from like 95% down to 50%. That's a major shift.
A huge drop. What about the actual manufacturing? Can China make these advanced chips entirely on its own yet?
That's the ultimate goal for them. Companies like SatCarrier are working on domestic manufacturing equipment to try and bypass the need for the most advanced EUV machines, which are under tight export controls. They're collaborating with Huawei and Chinese foundries like SMIC, showing off new etching and inspection tools. It's a clear push towards manufacturing self-sufficiency, even if it takes time.
It really does sound like a long game China's playing. So putting it all together, what does this standoff over the H20 and China's domestic push mean for U.S.-China tech relations? What's the leverage game look like?
Look, all these moves, the H20 warning, the domestic investment, they're pieces of China's larger strategy for technological self-reliance and, ultimately, AI leadership. The CAC warning acts as leverage. It shows China can and will create friction for foreign tech companies if they feel pressured or see security risks. It underlines their determination to cut dependency.
And could this pressure actually backfire on the U.S. by accelerating China's own progress?
That's the big risk, the idea of the crossover point. If U.S. restrictions keep tightening, could they push China's domestic chips to become better than the restricted U.S. chips available there? If that happens, the big Chinese companies might just fully switch to domestic suppliers like Huawei or Cambricon. That would really hurt Nvidia and other U.S. chip makers in a massive market.
It's a delicate balance for U.S. policymakers, then.
Absolutely. You want to maintain a technological edge, but you don't want to push China so hard they completely decouple and potentially leapfrog in certain areas. And remember, it's interdependent too. The U.S. needs China for things like rare earths, which are vital for making chips. Both sides have levers to pull.
This has been fascinating. It really shows how a single chip can become the focal point for this huge global contest over technology, security, and economic power.
It really is a microcosm, isn't it? The chip industry today, it's not just about circuits and code. It's about national sovereignty, who you trust, and fundamentally, who gets to shape the future of AI.
A complex picture indeed. Thank you for joining us and helping us unpack it on this deep dive. We hope this gives you, our listeners, a much clearer understanding of these critical developments.